is just too much pressure, too hard, and it's unnecessary pressure and hardship. But having said that, I was the one who took depression into the workplace, and I was the employee who wasn't the most charming, the most happy, clappy person. So we shouldn't think that mental ill health is only caused by work. There is childhood adverse experiences. There are, you can have been burgled the night before. There's having a horrible diagnosis, bereavement, relationship breakups, you name it. Life happens to all of us, and we take it into the workplace. We cannot get to reception and then drop who we are and become this work persona who has no problems at all, just work, work, work. And then when we leave reception again to go home, we put it all back in and we don't talk work at home. Of course we do. So there's always an overlap between life outside of work and work. And I don't like talking about work and life because we spend so much time at work that is part of our life. So it's not that life stops when you go to work. It's just an activity we do for a number of hours every day to put food on the table. So,
yeah, Peter, and it is true because I've worked in the legal profession before myself, and you're right. There's a high degree of suicide among attorneys, and I just wanted to ask you, how are you helping them within that profession, because they truly do need.
They do need it, and because of my life experience, my lived experience, and my educational background, I can do what I would deem as three things, which is just blend into one product, which is called emotional weightlifting. So it's counseling, it's coaching, and it's mentoring. And I don't signpost to my clients which technique or which method I'm using. I'm meeting the client where they are at in their life and what issues they come to talk to me about. And then we just take it from there. Because when you are trained as a coach, typically, you're being told, you're in the middle. Over here, we have counseling, that's fixing the past to make the future. Okay, that's where you come in, because you can take people from A to B. Right. And mentoring, you don't do that because that's telling people to do what I do. Whereas coaching is only about asking questions and making people realize what they can do for themselves to get to where they want to be. And it's about what they want from their life. And the coaching part, I've always bumped into, I think every client gets to a point where something emotional is stopping them from making progress. And that's where my psychology kicks in. So we just overcome that hurdle instead of me trying to say, I'm a coach, I can't deal with this, you have to go and see a counselor. And they never do, and they never come back to me. So we just take it in our stride as we move along. And I can't remember many sessions where we haven't had a laugh. It's part of it, isn't it? Why does it have to be so dreary and so serious? No, we are human beings, both of us. I just happen to have read some other books than my clients have read. I happen to have chosen people and their well-being as my profession.
Have any of your clients read your books? And how have your books actually impacted some of your relationships?
Some have read my books, some have asked to buy my books, some have come to me because of my books. So when I wrote the first book, it came out in 2018. I didn't really know what I wanted from it. So it was more about, I want to tell my story a little bit. I'm very good at doing what I'm doing, and I think other people should know about it. So I brought it to networking meetings, and people could buy it there. We talked about it. And yes, it's on Amazon as an ebook. I have self-published, and that comes with its own challenges and confusion and all of that stuff. So has it done wonders for my business? No, it hasn't. But that's probably more down to me not having been savvy enough, knowing how to push it out there and use it as a sales tool, rather than it being a bad book, because I get wonderful feedback on it. So I think when you write a book, or when you are a co-author, which I am on this one, there's 19 other authors in this one, you do have to have a marketing plan afterwards. And I do use the chapter that I know that you read, Marlene, as a lead magnet, something that people can have if they have a conversation with me, and we don't hit it off, because I don't take on board every client that, or any potential client. It has to work. The kind of work I do, we go back to the relationship. If you're not comfortable working with me, then don't. Please don't, because it won't work. But also, if I'm not comfortable working with you, I will say so. You might turn up with something that I can't deal with, because nobody knows everything. I have my limits. So I deal with what I'm good at, and what I'm not good at, I will signpost that person to somewhere else who's a specialist in whatever it is. But if we haven't got this chemistry, this connection somehow, that we think we can tell each other our deepest thoughts and feelings, then it's not going to work. And sometimes I am not the right person. And I am happy when that happens, because then my then not client goes somewhere else where it does work, because it's about the client, it's not about me. When we do work together, we get great results. And I do tell about my story sometimes when it's relevant. Of course, I've lived a life. I've been in a bad relationship. I've been in a good relationship. I've made my mistakes at work. I've had my successes here, there, and everywhere. So there's always something that in my life and my career that I can use to relate to what my client is telling me. And that helps. So if you think about therapists, they come in two big chunks. And this is putting it very crudely, and you can kill me afterwards. But there are those who start their education and career as therapists. Go to university, first thing they do, they want to become therapists, and then they get into the world. And then there's the other type who have been out there working, doing other things like me, who then mid-career choose a different direction and study to become a therapist. And there's nothing wrong with either format. It just depends what your needs are. So it's about finding the right person for you.
Wow, and I was just amazed, from the passage that I read, from your book, and you mentioned relate, and you do need to relate, Peter. And I told you earlier that as I read that, some of the chapters there, I could visualize, and I could see myself right there alongside of you. I felt you listening to the discussions, of your parents, and you were a young child at that time. And also in the classroom, sometimes children can be bullies, because some of us have experienced that. So I could relate with you, and as you were saying, and that's taken also into the workplace, because adults can do the same thing.
We have, as humans, we have the ability to be totally vicious and tough on each other, and sadly we choose to do that a lot instead of just being kind. But there's a number of reasons why we behave that way, and that's probably another conversation in its own right. But
I would love us to have another conversation about that.